Oh, we could fly.
Welcome to this new season of the Have a Cup of Johanny podcast. So, I want to title this new season that I'm embarking on with I'm growing. So, this is going to be the season of growth. And that's what I'm going to share with you throughout the season. So, I thank you for coming over here and sitting with me. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. So, for the month of July, for the Have a Cup of Johnny podcast, we will focus on the theme of mental wellness. So this summer, my life has been challenged tremendously with things that had happened at work and with things that have occurred to my health as well, which has really tested not just my resiliency, as we discussed that before, but also the foundation that I have built for my mental well-being. And because all of this is happening to me, I have to apologize firsthand in that this may be a little bit short as I try to protect my spirit from having to rehash certain things just because if you don't know this and I haven't said it on the episode, I usually have to have like several months, years sometimes between an incident that occur and my ability to be able to openly talk about it. But I just feel that mental well-being, particularly now because I'm going through all of this, so it's fresh, but also as we carrying into the holidays. And I know that the holidays can be a depressing time for folks, that I want to talk about it. I want to share this with you all. So that way it can be fresh, or you all can replay this or re-listen to it or find some more resources when it comes to mental well-being that works for you. So that way you can ensure that your soul, your spirit it's good, or at the very least good enough to walk in this world, because it is so important, so very important. So saying that, that is the theme for the month of July. And for this first episode of July, we're going to talk about the foundation, how I acquired that foundation. Are you all ready? Let's go. All right, listeners. Or if you follow me on my Instagram broadcast channel, you will know that I call you all vasitos there. Little cups for Have a Cup of Johnny. So y'all are my little cups that come here to get your fill. And yeah, so I think it may stick. I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't offend anyone, but if it does, send me a message. But the foundation of my mental well-being happened through self-help books. And there's an episode here where I talk about the self-help books that change my life. And I have to start by saying that mental well-being was not something that I grew up understanding. I come from a Latina household, specifically a Dominican household, that I was telling this to somebody. We are, in my family, we pray the hurt away. And we, like, heavily, we solely rely on religion to heal our emotional wounds, the wounds of the soul, of the heart, of the spirit, and so forth. But as I started growing up and understanding what mental health was, and at the same time becoming more self-aware, and saw that I was lacking certain things that could make me be a more resilient person and be able to walk through life, I noticed that praying the hurt away was lacking. It was not the one all to be all solution for mental health. And now, talking to someone about this, I understand that praying helps in that it's good to say things out loud sometimes in the confessional, right? I'm Catholic. So in the confessional or whatnot, it because it lessens the impact, or as I like to say, it makes the devil that you're dealing with less frightful, because now you are looking at them straight in the face and telling them, I see you, you're there, but I'm not going to allow you to have power over me. And sometimes that's what saying it out loud in the form of prayer or confession or talking to somebody that you trust or a therapist, that may be where that helps, and why some people may feel like praying it's helpful. But me as a writer, I found that I needed a little bit more than that. Saying it out loud does help, but I needed a little bit more. I needed to reframe my mind, really. That's where these self-help books came into place, because at that time I was in my 20s, and that's when kind of like the wheels just fell off the truck per se, right? And I was running just on the rims like a getaway car that have gone completely wrong. I found myself a single mom. I found myself depressed, and I don't know if that was because of the hormones, the hormonal change, and all of that. I found myself very alone as well. I had just gotten to a new duty station, so I didn't know people. But thankfully, those leaders kind of like just welcomed me. They embraced me so quickly that I didn't have time to realize that I didn't know anybody. And I do want to say this about the army, which is something that the army has given me, is just that family, right? And that's what happened here. I was brand new to being a mom. My son's father at that time, while we were together, he was overseas still. And so there was a separation there. Eventually, right after I would have my son, he would just ghost me and leave me. So as you can imagine, right now, looking back at that, around that time frame, as I was gearing up to have my son, because I got to this duty station, I want to say 2 months before giving birth to my son, he was already separating himself. But I was too busy nesting, setting up a house, and doing all of that to realize. Now looking back at it, hindsight is 2020. Now I can see the signs that were there and so forth. But back then, I mean, that was not, wasn't even the forefront of my mind, not even close to it. And that's why I think it caught me by surprise when the ghosting happened. But so I had that, right? It was the being far away from family, from friends, from my son's father, that got alleviated a little bit with my army family that just came together. It was like Transformers more than media, right? They just pulled up. Pulled up. It was like, we don't know you, you don't know us, but we're family. And let's give you a baby shower. Let's do this. Very inquisitive, as they should be, right? So that way they can get to know me, and they can see where I was lacking and all of that. So they helped me get secondhand furniture. I wrote a story called The Secondhand Table that is very touching, a tribute to this brand new family that came to my rescue at this time, because really that's what they did. And it was one of them that was at the birthing of my son, and that cut my son's umbilical cord. It wasn't blood family, it was army family that was there. And I'm getting a little teary. I just think about that, because that is so important when it comes to mental health, is having that group, having those ties. Because I keep saying, like, we're human beings, and as much as we may want to pretend that we are robots and we don't need people, we do. And this right here, now looking back at it, I realize how much I was nurtured by these people. I just derailed my own conversation. But yes, so they took me in like an orphan. And But then on the side as well, I've always been a reader, so my go-to has always been like books, right? Like when I see that there's a gap in knowledge for me, I go towards books right away. And one of the books that I read, and I went to a library. It's called Fort Liberty now, but back then it was called Fort Bragg. And I went to the library there and I took out books because I had no money for anything, for any books. So libraries have always been this source of knowledge, kind of like this, my golden token, my golden coin to life. And I love libraries and I love librarians, by the way. I think they're superheroes. So I went to the library and I got What to Expect When You're Expecting, because the very old, very, very old book, I think is probably like on its 10th edition right now or something like that. This was way back, 2002. And and I went ahead and got that because some of the anxiety that I was having was that I didn't know what to expect about being a mom. I didn't know what to expect about the stages of life that I would see my child, because at that time I didn't know whether it would be a boy or girl, what my child will go through, how I can support that child through those stages and so forth. And that gave me anxiety. And I didn't know that at the time. I know now that for me, preparation is very important because it lessens my anxiety and things. So I'm like a big fanatic of preparation, of rehearsals, of practice, and all of that, just because it eases my anxiety before I do certain things. And it's the same thing in my personal life. So through this book, I was able to understand a little better and not feel so stressed about what would come, because it gave me a clue. It gave me an idea of what I would see, and it gave me something to hold on to so that way I can prepare myself for the really fast approaching arrival of my son. What would be my son? Because I didn't know. And another book that I grabbed that became my foundation for my mental well being back in my 20s was the Four Agreements. I was very angry a lot of the time. I was very angry. I mean, I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. I was very angry. I felt like it was me against the world with most of the situations that I would encounter. And it was so taxing. And being hormonal pregnant and then after giving birth, that just got amplified so much more. And I didn't know, back then I didn't understand the hormonal factor. I didn't understand postpartum depression. I didn't understand any of those things. I didn't know. No one talked about it, at least not to me. And since I didn't know, I wasn't of the mind to go look it up in the library. So I just knew that I was feeling heavy emotions, and and I knew that I was reacting very angry like and very harsh to interactions that I would have. And I kind of put two and two together in my head and understood that if I continue on that path, I will find myself alone, and kind of understanding that that will make me really like an island without no help. I kind of knew, begrudgingly so, but I knew that I needed to make a change so that way I can be around people, and I think this stems from just like neglect trauma, disappointment trauma as a child from my family, right? Being bullied for like almost every day of my life. All those things piled up and turned me into a very angry person that didn't know how to connect, and that was triggered by almost every single thing. So the Four Agreements became kind of like this Bible per se that guided me and helped me to see that we are all living in our own worlds, like the book says, in our own dream. And what somebody does even if they're doing it towards me or at me, it really is a reflection of the dream that they're living currently. And that is in the introduction of the four agreements. That's before I hit the actual four agreements and read in depth about those. And it just, it clicked as soon as I read that. And it's just something, when you're giving a piece of knowledge or something and how it just clicks and it opens up your mind to so many things and you start tying things together and then gaining even more knowledge. That's what happened here. And in these microseconds that followed me reading that paragraph, it was just so many connections that I made off of that. I was able to look back at interactions, understand why I was doing the things that I was doing, how I didn't really know what the other person was going to. But in my head, I was already making them into these antagonistic villain and building up a whole story about them when I didn't even know that person like that. You see, so it was like somebody just splashed cold water on my face and was like, fucking wake up, Johanny. It was like that. And like I said before, it wasn't night and day change. It happened slowly and it took years. But this was a book that I reread a lot of the times. And it's a very small book too, that is very feasible. But I reread this book quite a lot of times at the beginning. And actually, I read it again last year. And I'll probably read it again during the holiday break this year. Because it's things that for me are important to keep reminding myself when it comes to these four things that one should agree upon. So that way you can live a peaceful life. And that's what I needed. I needed to have a peaceful mind in order to go through life and now go through life with this small human being that will be fully dependent on me. And I needed that. So those books were really the basis of what I used in order to start understanding myself because it wasn't really about the other people. Right? It wasn't really about them or how they were jerks or narcissists or any of that. It was never about them. It was always about me and how I can take care of me, how I can center me, how I can ground me. So that way I can have better interactions with people. And when I realized that, when I did that, then that enabled me to do much more. And what much more is what we will discuss on the second episode of our chat. This is a very quick chat today. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Let me know what you liked or what you didn't like. Leave me a message. Send me an email at joa@haveacupofjohanny.com. Or you can follow me on social media. Talk to you next Wednesday. Bye.
Oh, we could fly.
Thank you so much for listening. I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment, do a rating if you can on the podcast, share it with somebody you love, but most importantly, come back. See you next time. Bye.